Hello. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Stories from the Earth. I'm Jennifer. All right. So, before we get to our interview, I just want to briefly say why I'm doing these interviews. The practice of herbalism is as diverse and dynamic as each individual herb and each individual herbalist. There are many ways to be an herbalist and many ways to interact with the plant world. Each herbalist takes their own path. This series explores the many ways to be an herbalist and who an herbalist is, as well as discussion on herbalism today and where herbalism might be going in the future. Today we are talking with Ceara Foley, Director and owner of the Southeast's oldest herbal studies school, the Appalachian School of Holistic Herbalism. Ceara is also a teacher, writer, medicine maker, plant protector, and sustainability advocate, and is the land steward of Soulflower Botanical Sanctuary. Yes. All right. So, hi.
Hi.
How are you this morning?
I'm doing well.
Good. Is it raining by you too?
It is, yeah. Nice, pretty light rain, but yeah, consistent.
Sort of, yes. All right, so I want to welcome you to Stories from the Earth. And if anyone has any questions for Ceara, please pop them into the chat. Please put them in all caps or like do @ Sewell Herbs and Tarot my name so that I can see it. And we will work in questions and comments as we go along. So I noticed that you are drinking a tea.
Yeah.
Can I just ask you what's in it, and then was there a reason why you put those particular herbs in there today?
Sure. Yeah. I usually make a tea pretty much every day from herbs that I harvest outside mostly, and sometimes some herbs I have dried. So this one has goldenrod, rose petals, hawthorn, and rose hips, and skullcap. So, and my lovely best friend Leslie made this mug.
It looks awesome. Yeah, it's beautiful. Does it have a handle, or is it one of those without?
No, it's just handle. So I guess I chose those herbs. It's definitely goldenrod season. So it's in bloom, very prolific. There's a bunch of species of goldenrods here. And I guess this weekend I was feeling a little stressed and sad, and so I've also had a little bit of some sinus stuff, I don't know if it's allergies or just as I get older I have a little bit of fall sinus stuff. So the goldenrod was in bloom, rose petals. I don't know if you can see this. Yeah,
I can't. I wonder if I can
let's see. There you go.
There you go. So you can see this. Oh, beautiful.
Rose for the heart. Also the vitamin C. Rose hips that I had dried, I added for more vitamin C. Goldenrod is great for drying the sinus, drying out the sinuses, but also lubricating the lungs and the respiratory tract, and great for allergies, great for just this time of year, kind of preparing for the fall and winter, helping your kidneys as well, prepare for the winter. It's just a great fall tonic and delicious. And yeah, I don't know, this weekend,
oh wow,
I didn't get out as much as I should have, but I just harvested this bundle to stuck my head in it, and that was enough to make me feel a lot better. So it smells so sweet, it smells like you're laying in the grass. So yeah, that's why I made the tea, and I pretty much try to make a tea every day that includes something that I harvested. So I'm also connecting with the plants and getting outside and saying hi to them as well as drinking them.
So is it different every day, or a little about, what your needs might what you might feel you need.
Exactly. So the goldenrod, you know, I have this whole bunch, so I'll use this throughout the week, and then I'll go, you know, pick some other stuff, maybe lemon balm one day, whatever's in bloom. I think I actually put some marshmallow leaf in there as well today for soothing the nervous system. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's an awesome way to like start your day and be able to connect with the plants on a daily basis. That's so cool. I live in town, so like it's a little harder for me to do that. I just have a little balcony and I have some comfrey and a little bit of lemon balm and catnip. That's sort of those are good. You know, the lemon balm and catnip are really lovely for the nerves, but I have a weird spot, so really the comfrey is what does well, and everything else seems to like die. So I don't know, but I am also drinking tea, and this is Tulsi and turmeric. So I like the Tulsi for the nerves. I feel like it helps just sort of calm my whole body down. Sometimes a little too much, like, and then the turmeric for like digestion. I do turmeric tincture too, so like I know that you don't get too much medicinal value in a tea bag, but you know, this also has like cinnamon and some other stuff in it too, which yeah, I love that. That's sort of a digestion. Always something for digestion for me, a combination. And nervines too. I started a new job, so it's been a crazy week for me. Yeah, really crazy. All right, so we're gonna get into it. All right, so tell us a little bit about yourself and describe how you got into herbalism, and why did you want to become an herbalist and be involved with these awesome plants?
Okay, great. Well, I'm just going to reiterate that my name is Ceara, and a lot of people get it wrong, so I like to just impress that every time I am able to. So it's Gaelic and
okay,
2 syllables. So if I'm in Ireland, they say Ciara, but my parents decided on Ceara, like the Goddess of Grain series, and I was called cereal in kindergarten a lot. Not appreciated back then, but now I know that that's where we get the word cereal is from the Greek series.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. So I appreciate it a little more. It's sort of come full circle. I guess I feel that I was really just sort of drawn to herbalism as soon as I can remember being alive. So I had a pretty unstable childhood, early childhood, and I feel that I was really blessed to always be around nature. However, I always had access to, most of the time, beautiful nature, if not just a little plot of earth. So I feel like being outdoors and being in nature really gave me that groundedness that I needed and wanted and was searching for, and also sort of a sense of place and friendship. I feel like I was sort of nurtured by Mother Nature and raised by Mother Nature in my early childhood a lot. So I think just being outdoors, I would pretend at a young age that I was, an orphan lost in the woods, and I had to eat the wild plants to survive. And then someone would find me, and I would always have a little hideout, like a little special space that was mine, and I felt safe and that I sort of gave back to and was in relationship with. So, and then someone would find me out there eventually and be like, don't eat that. And, years later, I'd find out that all the things I intuitively gathered I could have eaten.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
So similarly in school, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis at age 2, juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, and I was bullied a lot as a child. I, didn't we didn't really use that word back then, but
that's what it was. Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
So similarly at school, I opted out for hanging out with plants instead of people a lot of the time. So, and just like looking for acorns that had ant eggs in them, and just sort of being a little scientist. And looking back, even throughout middle school and high school, like all the projects that we would do, I would sort of incorporate plants without really thinking about it or knowing that it was a passion of mine. But I think in middle school we had a medieval day, and I made rose petal bread, and one of my classmates reminded me of that years later, and I'd forgotten about it. In high school we did a science experiment, and I grew 2 plots of grass seed and was mean to one of them and kind to the other.
Wait, how are you mean to a pot of grass seed?
With my words. So.
Oh, with your words.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and the one that I was kind to grew much better. So, and that was years before I ever heard of Emoto or any sort of thing like that. So that was just a concept I had come up with as a teenager. For myself. And I lived with my aunt when I was 7 to 14. She really nurtured my love of nature. And we lived in a very nice, just outdoor place with a creek and a quarry, a soapstone quarry nearby. And so I would transplant plants from other parts of the woods into my hideout and catch fish and collect fiddleheads. And she was into French cuisine, so she had Yule Gibbon's book, Stalking the Wild Asparagus, and so she would cook the fiddleheads that I brought in for me. And she showed me this book when I was about 7, and I definitely couldn't read it at the time, but I just knew it had to be the absolute coolest thing ever, this book about how to eat wild plants. So and back then, that was one of the really, there's a ton of books on wild animals, but that was really the pioneer one. So although she wasn't so nature oriented, she did have that, was able to foster that in me and share that appreciation with me. So I don't think that I ever really knew what an herbalist was. So, later as a teenager, a hippie teenager, I was into being all natural. So I started making my own floral infused oils for perfume instead of perfume. And, then started studying on my own the magical side of herbs. And then as a young adult, I started researching the treatments and medicines that I had been put on for my rheumatoid arthritis. Intuitively, as a young child, I felt weird about the fact that I would be given the same treatment. I was always, the 10-year-old in the room amongst 60 and 70-year-olds. And it always seemed really strange in some part of me that I was getting the same treatments that they were. And so as a young adult, I started researching the side effects of the medicines I was given. I took a new medicine and broke out in hives immediately. So I started paying more attention to that, and then started researching the medicinal side of herbs on my own. And yeah, I don't think I ever wanted to really be an herbalist until I went to herb school and knew it was an option. I definitely at some point wanted to sort of be a witch in the woods. And
me too.
Yeah, I love the word witch. So I don't know how much I embraced that word, but I definitely wanted to be the wise woman in the woods, in sort of solitude, speaking to the animals and sort of, having people seek me out and ask me about plants and, come to me out there. And I certainly did that as well. I used to I used to hold space for full moon circles for 10 years, full moon circles. And so we did a lot of that for a long time. And then, yeah, I went to herb school and then realized like, oh, this is a thing I can do. Yeah, career path, actually.
The thing I've been doing my whole life is a thing.
You're right. It's legitimate. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I guess that's how I got into herbalism. A long story. Yeah.
Nothing like having an illness or there's nothing kind of unusual arthritis, but there is something usual about having it at that young age. So to make you sort of start looking at the sort of medicine from a different angle, especially if you're having like reactions to.
Sure. I think that a lot of people on sort of alternative or traditional healing paths have a story of their own where they were not satisfied with the care that they were given and looking for safer, healthier, more intuitive options. And I think that, obviously it was hard. RA is the autoimmune disease affects the whole body and affects all the organs. And so obviously having that since as early as I can remember has been a challenge, but I do also feel like it's been a blessing in that I've been just really sort of tuned into my body, very conscious of my body my whole life, So I think that is an aspect that also helps make me be a good herbalist because I can feel how the herbs are affecting me. I feel like I pick up on subtle energies, plant energetics.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got 2 questions from chat. One, they're asking about the your grandmother's Fiddlehead book. What was the name of it?
Yeah, so it was my aunt.
Sorry.
No problem. Just giving her props for that. So
yeah,
my grandmother also very influential to me. Very matriarchal household family. But the name of the book is Stalking the Wild Asparagus, and it's by Yule Gibbons.
I'm trying to. Nope. All right. Did everyone get that? Because I cannot spell asparagus. So, Stalking the Wild Asparagus is the book. And then later on, I'll just put the link in the description when. So, thank you, Heather. Heather put the name in. My spelling's terrible. So, and then one other question was, where did you grow up? Like,
I grew up mostly in the suburbs of Philadelphia.
Okay.
And pretty nice areas with, a lot of nature. I moved to Dallas for a little bit, and also had a quarry nearby where I would catfish. So a lot of water and nature around. Yeah, so mostly Pennsylvania and Dallas for a couple of years.
Okay, cool. All right. So, do you remember the first herb that you felt like you really connected with, and why? Like,
I'd say that, just to preface it, like in Chinese medicine, they say anything in nature that is used in healing is an herb. So they use like stones and flying squirrels.
Oh, okay.
I would give credit to Lily of the Valley, which is my grandma's favorite flower and was outside my grandma's house, which was sort of my most consistent home growing up. Lily of the Valley and Hyacinth. So Lily of the Valley is not really used by practicing herbalists. It is pretty toxic, nor is Hyacinth, except for in aromatherapy. But yeah, Hyacinth is the first one that I made my own flower oil from as a early teenager, and just as a child, like I would just go outside to those flowers every spring. And, Lily of the Valley has an affinity for the heart, so they were just have a lot of sentiment to me for sure. And I'm a spring baby, so those would be two herbs that really are my gateway plants. And then as far as like more medicinal herbs, more herbaceous medicinal herbs, mugwort or Artemisia vulgaris is one. I was a hippie in my teens and 20s, and I was on dead tour.
It's a mugwort switch stick.
Yeah.
So yes, I love it as well.
Yeah, it's such a good one. So I was also studying goddess tradition and goddess religions and, Celtic tradition, which I was also just discovering was a thing before I thought it was just, sort of an idea I had in my head. So mugwort, Artemisia vulgaris, named after the goddess Artemis, who I feel a very strong affinity for. And I used to be pretty crafty and, make my own hippie dresses. So I'd make dream pillows out of it and sell them on dead tour. And, And then I found out that you could also smoke mugwort and it induces visions, psychic dreams, prophetic dreams of the future. I personally find that I get spirit animals come to me a lot in my dreams, which normally animals aren't in my dreams other than when I drink or take mugwort in some way. But yeah, I have friends on dead tour that would be like, "Oh, there's Ceara. We know she's got some mugwort to smoke." So, that's kind of silly, but it's also, I think, really important. A lot of people as teenagers and young adults are really into cannabis, and there's gazillions of herbs you can smoke. There's gazillions of herbs for your nervous system. There's gazillions of herbs that are, entheogens, mind altering to some varying degree. So it also just started opening my mind to like, wow, there's so many medicinal plants. There's so many plants we can use in so many ways. Smudging, dreaming, and then the medicinal aspects as well. It's good for the menses, good anti-parasitic, which is good for dead tour as well. And that just sort of got me going deep with one plant and realizing how versatile one single herb is and how much it has to offer in so many different ways.
Mugwort was also one of the first plants that I connected with as well. We had this old oak tree that I grew up with. My parents had 3.5 acres of land, which was my little magic place. And then when it died, which I was very sad, it was like, it's got to be like several hundred years old. Around the stump grew up this ring of mugwort. And then when I got, first started exploring herbalism, I was like, and first started identifying the plants, that was one of the first, like, oh yeah, I know what that one is. And I just love the smell. And I feel like I like to smudge with it because I feel like it's very calming. And I learned it was an herb of protection. I'm like, oh, maybe that's why I feel very calm and relaxed, because
safe.
So I share that sentiment of mugwort.
Yeah, that's awesome. And also with its anti-parasitic physical quality, getting rid of parasites in the body, it's also that way energetically. So when you smudge with it, it specifically has an affinity for getting rid of energetic parasites. So if people are sucking your energy, or if you're on the path and you feel really drained by people, really great for that. Yeah.
No wonder it's such an important plant for me, because I'm very sensitive and I take in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I just naturally just pick up on all kinds of stuff, and I have a hard time like releasing. So I burn that a lot. So Thank you for telling me that. That makes so much more sense. It's sometimes when you're drawn to a plant, you don't always know all of the reasons. But
of course, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Some from the chat, Smoky Fantastic, who says I have some, it jumped, sorry, chat jumped, some crazy mugwort dreams with animals. And she says she used it as a tea for her period, help with cramps. Yeah. All right. Ooh. All right. So along your journey, was there an herbalist who really inspired and supported you along your path? Did you have anyone you considered an herbal mentor, anyone you looked up to? Can be someone you knew or somebody just that you've read their books or watched their, followed their careers or.
Yeah, I'd say I have a few people. Definitely I took over the school that I went to, which was originally called the North Carolina School of Natural Healing. And so my teacher, Hermione Ellis, ran the Herbal Studies program there. So I certainly, have to give credit to her. I learned a ton from her, and she learned from Rosemary Gladstar, who I also adore. So there's a long lineage of traditional herbalists that, I give props to for sure. I didn't, really mentor with anyone, but I do have a dear, hearted friend that a lot of herbalists around the world really know and adore, Frank Cook. And
okay. Yeah.
Frank went to my school before I owned it, studied under me. That was his first formal herbal class that he took. And he was just a really unique, dynamic person that he was on a quest to meet the 57 genera of plants, which, at first is sort of easy to do, and then you have to start going to remote areas to do it. And he would meet the indigenous healers of the places that he would go see his plants. And then he would glean all this wisdom from the plants of the regions and the healers of the regions, and then carry them to the next place and share what he learned from all over the globe about plants and healing. So really just sort of fantastic gift. His sort of creed was give what you can, receive what you need. So it was all donation based, all his traveling and teaching. He also sort of coined this term, eat something wild every day. I don't know if you can see my t-shirt, but I have a little Frank Cook.
Let's see. I can give us a little. There we go.
Eat something wild every day. It's very worn out.
Worn with love.
But that eat something wild every day, as I talk about with the tea, is just a way to connect with your plant communities, what is growing around you, the other living beings that are your neighbors. So he was really inspirational to me. I think, mostly because he was my baby's daddy's friend from many years back. So I met him that way, not really through being an herbalist, although we intersected, going to the same herb school and knowing a lot of the same people. But he really encouraged me as a young professional herbalist. I took over the herb school that Hermione started in 2001 when I was pregnant with my only daughter, my only child. And so my first year of classes, I had a 1-year-old, a toddler, and he just really encouraged me at a time where I, had sort of that imposter syndrome. I'm like, am I really an expert yet? Should I be taking all this on? Plus, I have this infant that's, taking up 90% of my attention. And he really just valued what I have to offer and the aspect that I bring to herbalism, and really encouraged me. And I think that was just, I'm almost going to tear up, but I think that was really just something that was incredibly special about him as a person. Is every time he taught, he would ask whoever he was with, the group of people, he would try to draw out, like, what is your passion? What is your unique thing that you love and you want to go deeper into and you want to share with the community? Because he would emphasize, we can't, it's not a do-it-yourself culture. We're meant to be in community, and we can't learn everything. Like, who's going to be the person, he would always say, that learns all the ferns and can be our fern expert? And who's going to be the grass person and learn all the grasses or all the goldenrods, and it's just really inspiring, and just sort of that natural ability to make you want to find what you really are passionate about and share it, and not keep it to yourself. You would say, don't be an end user. Really always sticks with me. So definitely Frank Cook was super special to me. And many people. And I'd also say Rich Ochek was another person. He's the owner of Horizon Herbs that, as a young herbalist, really encouraged me. He came out and guest taught at my botanical sanctuary in my home, a class on natural gardening. And whereas Frank Cook would say, he would go in the garden and pull all the weeds, and we would make up wild foods from all the weeds. And he would say, the rest of this stuff is just like extra, just sort of like fancy wasted time, like you're spending money and energy that we don't really need to be spending. We can just eat all these weeds. Conversely, Rich Ochek cultivates every single plant there is to cultivate, pretty much. So he came and taught for me, guest taught at my house, and just really instilled to me. I already had this concept, but he just sort of took it to a next level for me of putting your energy and good intention into your medicine making. Medicine making is really my passion as far as herbalism goes, as well as growing plants and harvesting plants and wildcrafting. But, I know there's like, I don't even really want to use this term, but seed to seal term, right? That people are using. Seed to seal, like from seed to packaging. Yeah.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
Well, good. I don't love the company that, I'm not a big fan of the company who markets that term. But anyway, the concept of, not just like when you're stirring the medicine, or making it or chopping your plants, but all the way, not even from planting the seeds, which is that seed to seal concept, but even before that, he said, when you're getting the plot of earth ready, the little parcel of earth that you're gonna plant the seeds, you can be intentionally saying, I'm pulling out weeds of illness, right? I'm adding the amendments of nourishment and love and support, right, into your soil, just preparing your soil, as well as planting your seeds, and just every step of that process of making your own plant medicine. And that just really resonates with me, and he's just a super cool guy. So yeah.
Wow. It's definitely, I have one person well, I have two people in my life that have that do this, but it's important. It's amazing having that person that like really believes in you and sees you and then also the concept of that, I think a lot of us struggle with the concept of like, we're all supposed to do it on our own.
Yeah.
That's in the larger society, and we're like, well, why can't I? And also, like, I love the idea, it's very empowering, and it feels really amazing, like, to think of each person being able to lend something to the whole and the good, and I think we need more of that, for sure, as well as, connecting with the plants and just this. But anyway, so such two wonderful mentors and people who have supported you. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
I also, Richo is a writer, and I have one of his books here too. So this is his book, Making Plant Medicine, and it's one of my favorite herb books. It is one of the few that talks about different menstruums, like blending different menstruums. So he'll say, use part vinegar and part alcohol, whereas most don't do that. And he also just focuses on plants that you can grow yourself. So I really appreciate that, because I am very much on the tactile side of herbalism. And again, not to do it yourself, because there's just a lot of movements that are great and are needed and have a lot of power in them. And then sometimes people go so far with them that we have to kind of pull back again and remember, so the do-it-yourself thing is great to be empowered and self-sufficient and self-reliant. And, able to survive crises or limited resources or whatever the case may be, but also, we are meant to be in community, and we need to not forget that as well. But that book is one of my favorites.
Can you just hold it up again so that everyone can see it? I wrote the name down. This is one I'm familiar with, but one I do not currently own yet, but I really have been wanting to. So
I love it. He's also just a really good writer. I mean, I consider myself a writer, and I just like his style of writing. It's very, it's sort of poetic and illustratory. I don't know if that's a word. I made it up, maybe. But also, just chock full of information, but palatable and interesting to read for me, and pretty, well written as well. I have some other books too.
Yeah.
I'm
going to ask you about them.
Okay.
We're going to get to the books for sure, because definitely that's something that is well, everybody wants the books, loves the books. Let's see where, or we can jump right in to the books too.
It's up to you. We can certainly wait. I just realized I had them nearby. So.
Okay, cool. You have them ready. All right. Well, we'll wait. So, what is your idea of who an herbalist is, and what does an herbalist do?
I don't know if it's your mission statement, but like your mission statement, there's, very many different types of herbalists and different ways that herbalists manifest their lifestyle and career, as unique as each individual. You could be a clinical herbalist, you could be a traditional herbalist, you could be a community herbalist, you could be a medicine maker, a grower, a botanist, not to mention all the other sort of branches of herbalism, like aromatherapy and flower essences, plant spirit medicine, So I feel like my definition of an herbalist is someone who lives in relationship with plants. And which sort of reminds me of James Green, also one of my go-to authors, herbal authors. He talks about honeybees being the world's premier herbalists. And I'm also a beekeeper, and I like to infuse, I consider honey a medicinal herb and like to utilize the alchemy of honey with plants. But, they have this symbiotic relationship with plants, right? Honeybees, obviously, they coexist together and they nurture each other and they benefit each other. And so I feel like that's what an herbalist does as well. They cohabitate, appreciate, utilize, and serve plants, really. So, sometimes I feel like my days and weeks and months in life are sort of dictated by the needs of plants or at least my projection of what plants need, right? So I go out and I think this plant needs to be watered, or this plant needs to be pruned, or this plant needs to be talked to or made into medicine. And maybe it doesn't need any of that. And I'm just, but yeah, I like to think that I'm helping them and we're helping each other. It's a symbiotic relationship. So I feel like that is the general idea of what an herbalist does. If you're wanting, a more, a less esoteric maybe answer. Yeah.
Just your, your take on it. That's, there's no right or wrong answer. That's a lovely description of what an herbalist is and what an herbalist does. I mean, I keep, I only have like 3 plants on my porch because that's all I can take care of. I'm like, I don't want to, have more plants and then not be able to take care of them. And then this lady girl, she moved out downstairs. I've got 4 apartments in my little building, and she left this big plant on the porch, and it's this lovely, I don't actually know what kind of plant it is, and it looks kind of like it could be a tropical plant, but it's a vine and it's growing up, and I'm like, who's watering this plant? So I'm like watering it. I'm like, I cannot, I'm making sure that I was like, I don't think anyone's watering. All right, we'll just water it. And
start dictating your day.
I started taking over the care of this plant because I can't. So what you said definitely makes sense to me, and I resonates with me, and I think that
and that's a good point you bring up too. Is you don't necessarily need to have a bunch of land with a bunch of plants to be in that relationship.
That's true
as well. A few porch plants or potted plants are great, and also if you have access to going on hikes or even just parks or even just little side vacant lots. You've got dandelions coming up, and in the winter you have pine trees everywhere, and so there are plants everywhere that you can connect with and create relationships with, really, wherever you are.
Definitely. I mean, I'm in I'm close to downtown Asheville, and like literally like everyone's like yard is overflowing with like echinacea and yarrow, and there's mugwort sort of randomly, and just little pops of goldenrod, and just lemon balm, and mullein, and rosemary, and
awesome.
Just growing in people's gardens, and it's surprisingly, I'm surprised at the amount of maybe it's because of Asheville, and we love plants more than we love grass. We'll have that manicured lawn, but and you can tell, like, people who know what plant it is, because this house by me, they had this comfrey, just a whole bunch of it growing under their trees in the front yard, and they mowed them down and mulched them over, and I'm like, okay, they don't know what that is. And then there's, you know, another house down the road, and there's a whole big patch of it just there, you know, like, and close to their garden. So it's just, but yeah, there's plants everywhere, which is cool. So they're words. It's sort of like they make it easy for us to notice them, and then to us to engage with them. So they're just like, we're here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Pay attention, whether you're like, you know, in the city or in the country. It's just really cool. So yeah. Heather says from the chat, herbal lushness.
Right.
So yes, that's a good favorite aspect about being an herbalist?
I think sort of what you just started to describe, you know, is that I think the empowerment and the comfort that comes with knowing that plants are everywhere, and plants are always thriving and, you know, taking over and replenishing themselves. Yeah. And knowing that really wherever I am, I would be able to find food and medicine pretty much anywhere, I feel like. When, you know, COVID started happening in March and people started, you know, there was this huge rift, I guess there still is, of it's okay to bring up that topic, but there is this huge, you know, it was like one day I would feel like, I've got this, everything's fine, you know, and everybody, it's just there's nothing to worry about here. And then the next day I'd be like, you know, I have an autoimmune disease and I better get a gun, and the world, you know, end times are at the door, you know? So, and no matter which way I was feeling during the day or what I had read or who I had spoken to, I would just consistently feel very grateful to be an herbalist, because I just felt like I have this arsenal of plant medicines. You know, if we have a food shortage, I can go find wild foods, whether I'm at my land or not, you know, just wherever I am, and just also being able to share that knowledge and bounty with other people, and, you know, have it be, you know, potential trade opportunity, or just, you know, I would make a good team member for your apocalypse survival team.
I think we still need that. It's like a slow-mo. I don't know. It's just slowest apocalypse or not. I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. So so feeling really empowered in that way, and supported and nourished, and safe. And I think going back to, you know, growing up in sort of a sort of unsafe feeling situation, or I just always feel protected and also not alone because of plants. You know, it's like, even if I'm alone, there's living beings all around me.
Yeah. I mean, I really did feel like I connected with that big oak tree. You know, I grew up with it. It was right outside my window. And, you know, we moved when I was 9 from Brooklyn. So I was in the city. I was a city kid. But like, I just ended up falling in love with the nature that was all around, and now I just feel like, you know, so strongly connected with that. But on a funny note about COVID, when people were buying food, I was buying herbs.
Yeah, nice.
So I was just like,
and they sold out. A lot of the big suppliers sold out quickly. Yeah,
they did, and I actually have extra because I ordered from Mountain Rose, and then they were just like, we can't get your order to you. It's going to take a while. So I ended up going to Amazon, and some of the, like Frontier and another one, they had their stuff on Amazon, but it was still like the fast shipping. So I was able to get some stuff. And then my Mountain Rose order came in. And I was like, okay, I've got a lot. So, if I needed to barter, if I needed to give some away, if something happened, more is better to have, and they're not going to go to use. And also because I found like I was just sort of reading, and I was listening to all the herbalists and talk about what to do with a virus, and so I was learning a lot. It was really scary, but I was like I'm learning a lot about like these herbs that have to do with this, how to treat this.
Sure. Yeah.
And it was a scary, fascinating time. So, but I definitely share that feeling of like, oh gosh, or okay, I'm gonna be fine.
Yeah.
What am I gonna eat?
Yeah.
Some chickweed.
Yeah. Holy basil pesto. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and also we did have that real big rush at the school too on herbs. We sell herbs there, dried herbs, a plethora of dried herbs and extracts there. And we did have a real big rush on all those sort of lung support, immune support herbs. And, I had a moment of that too, like, is there going to be a shortage on herbs? And then that's that feeling that is really what I love about plant medicine is like, there is never going to be a shortage on plants. Like, if fires are out of echinacea or whatever the case may be, we have Japanese honeysuckle, there's always other herbs. They're going to come back, it might be 6 months, it might be 12 months, but we're going to have another flush of those herbs. It's just never ending. Yeah. So,
yeah. And I think that's what, we get sort of swept up in this mindset of the culture that we live in. And so we forget about that, we forget, hey, there's this wonderful redundancy in herbalism and variety. And so like, if you can't use one herb, you can sort of sub, in another one. So we have to keep that for the going forward in mind a little more. But I think Mountain Rose is still sort of intermittently having some trouble. So there's, but Norm's Farm never ran out of elderberry syrup, so they have plenty. So don't have to worry about the elderberry. Anyway. And I was also, my parents are in their 70s and they're in Texas. So I was also like making sure they had herbs, and I was making sure they had like preparations, and like, I was like, okay guys, I'm sending you the herbs, cause, but so there was a lot just,
suddenly all the people in my family who are like, what does she do? Are like, hey, what herb should I take?
You're like an essential worker.
Right.
But, that's a weird term. Because, I think we're all essential.
Absolutely.
So it's so what is the hardest thing about being an herbalist? Do you think there's
I think
challenging?
I think the fact that people don't really understand that it's like a whole different system of healing than the conventional medicine that they're used to, and that sort of a different language in a way too. So, I'll get a lot of what herbs should I take for arthritis? What herb should I take for diabetes? What herb will help me sleep? It's not even usually herbs, it's one herb. So people have this mindset that it's like, in Western medicine, conventional medicine, you take this one pill for this one thing, right?
Right, yeah.
So people still think that with herbs, it's going to be the same way. You take this one herb for this condition you've been diagnosed with. It's the name of the condition you've been diagnosed with, when it's really a whole completely different thing. So people don't want to hear, when they ask me specifically, I get a lot of questions about arthritis since I haven't. But, there's hundreds of types of arthritis and thousands of Americans that have arthritis. And so it's really just depends on the individual, and people don't want to hear. My first go-to thing is always stop eating sugar and grains.
Right.
Nobody wants to hear that.
It's so tasty. Bread is so good.
Yeah,
I know.
So people don't want to hear that. They don't want to, necessarily come in for a 2-hour consult and talk about intimate details of all aspects of their life. They don't want to change their habits. In Ayurveda, which is ancient Indian science of life, healing modality as well. They talk about what do you do the first 3 hours of your day every day, and that completely dictates your health status. So do you get up and, check your phone? Or do you get up and drink coffee? Do you get up and stretch? Do you take a shower? So they have it down, their science of life can be as, broad as the foods you eat and movement, and as specific as the finger that you wear a ring on and what metals and stones are on it can affect your energy and healing. So it's really, herbalism is about being a matchmaker. So getting to know the energetics of the individual, the energetics of the pathogen or disease state or blockages or whatever it is that's affecting their health, and then knowing the energetics of your plants and foods and lifestyle choices and stones and whatever other things from nature you might use, and treatments, the way you deliver them. Maybe you want to put those herbs in a bath for someone, maybe you want to put them in a capsule, maybe you want to put them in a tea, maybe you want to put them in a honey. So being a, sort of better herbalist requires matching those energetics of the plants and the administration to the person. And people just, they don't, they want convenience. And convenience is often what causes the sort of convenience mindset is often what causes a lot of illness and disharmony in the body and mind and spirit. And, I'm guilty of it too. And we all are to certain degrees, but just people just not even really wanting to hear any of that. They're just like,
right, yeah.
It's gonna work, right now. And it's just rare that you can really do that. There's certain herbs. Turmeric is one that I would say that is, for most people, it's going to be beneficial in some way to them. But it's not like, turmeric is going to cure a certain disease alone without any other any steps taken or changes made. So.
Right. Yeah. Totally. Okay. I mean, we are taught by, Western medicine that you take a pill and it cures everything, and that's it. You don't have to change anything. You don't have to do anything. You just have to take that pill. And health is a lot more nuanced and complicated, and it takes a lot more work. Especially, it's easier to prevent, but how we live tends to promote illness, I think, because we're not taught how to take care of ourselves. and so then we just sort of end up instantly. I mean that. I don't know about everybody, but in my experience, I find that like a lot of people that I know just sort of end up instantly ill. It's like, bam, where'd this come from? But then it takes a lot to untangle that and get you back into health, and you cannot just take a pill to fix that. And I think that you just cannot take a pill anyway, unless maybe if it's an aspirin, right? And sometimes, or like if you need surgery, because sometimes you need that, and sometimes things just happen so fast that that's the thing to do, right?
Yeah.
But then you also need all the aftercare, like, and you just can't take like a pain pill and then it'll take it all away. So I think that we're just not taught to think along those lines, and it's surprising for everybody. Even though I grew up in a household that we took our echinacea and and my mom didn't keep sugar in the house because, well, she would eat it, but it benefited us. So, so we went to the health food store. Like, I always sort of grew up in we didn't drink soda, and in this environment, like, I've had health issues. I had this case of irritable bowel syndrome, where it came on real suddenly. I've always had sort of digestive issues and stuff. Just have a digestive system weakness or proclivity for holding things in. So that's where I hold it. And I went to the doctor and I got tested left and right, and they did all these internal pictures and everything, and I kept getting worse, and they're like, "There's nothing wrong with you," and I'm like, So literally, they sent me to acupuncture, and I had stopped being able to eat, and I was in so much pain. So, it took a lot of work. It took a lot of acupuncture, Chinese herbs, Western herbs. It took yoga. It took acupressure. It took massage. It took therapy. It took changing my diet, going from being a vegetarian with a high carb, going to meat, low carb, lots of veggie diet, but I had to figure all this out for me. Yeah. I had to put all of the pieces together, because basically they're like, we don't know, bye.
Totally. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that a lot of people are not up for that challenge, but I sort of was in a place where I had to.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. I was pretty much, out of the medical system for, 20, 30 years. How old am I? 20 something years. And then I did decide to have a hip replacement, so I think there's definitely, I know there's a huge place for conventional medicine.
Yeah.
We also know that our system is super broken. So I'm very grateful that I got this hip replacement, and my life is much better than it was before the hip replacement. And I also, had a complication. I went to 11 doctors.
Wow.
2 MRI, 3 ultrasounds, 2 biopsies, and 2 doctors that wanted to give me surgery for it, saying it was skin cancer, when I was 1,000% sure it wasn't. But if I weren't in touch with my body, if I weren't able to go to 10 doctors and get all these second opinions, I would have had a second surgery that was completely worthless, not needed, and would have caused further problems. Even the surgeon who was going to do it said this might not heal well. So, Yeah, the system is just, it's a lot, you know.
A lot.
Each doctor knows what they do and what their tests do, and they're, you know, bound by these legalities. They can't really tell you anything outside of the scope of that. They can't. It's just a lot. So it all has its place, but the more education you have, and the more you can come in, you know, to a doctor being aware of what's going on and advocating for yourself and having friends there to advocate for you, is really important and helpful if you can. And yeah, I could go on and on.
Yeah. And I don't get me wrong. I feel like there is definitely you know, I have a fantastic primary care doctor, and I feel like there's both a place for herbalism and Western medicine, and that we are complicated humans, and it makes sense that healthcare would be very complicated.
Yeah.
To navigate.
One thing you said, when people, you know, you said people just think they want to take a pill and that will fix it, that will heal it. You know, really, there's no pills that heal anything. You know,
I know.
But I think, you know, that seems like we know that, but I don't think people really do know that. I don't think people really understand that the pills aren't actually healing anything. They're not actually fixing anything. They're, you know, just masking some or maybe all of the symptoms, and probably not all, some of the symptoms, and helping you cope, which is very valuable in a lot of cases.
Yes.
Helping you cope and helping you get further. But again, in the end, that state, this dis-ease state, is still there and likely becoming compounded because it's being ignored because you can cope and nothing has changed that set it up. So yeah, we really need diet, lifestyle, plants, or basically diet in a way, to help change those underlying causes, and also to help offset the effects of the pills that are toxing out our system as well, while we use them to cope with whatever's going on. Yeah.
Right. It's more of a, you know, it's a bigger picture than I think a lot of people realize. I mean, I have a whole morning routine now that involves yoga and, you know, a lot of other stuff, that, as well as checking my phone. I do also check my phone, but you know, I drink some coffee. I do, but you know,
put some cardamom in it. That's the antidote for caffeine.
Ooh, I should. And I'd probably help me with digestion too.
Yeah. Immune booster, good antibacterial. Yeah.
And yummy.
Yep, very yummy.
All right, we are gonna switch gears. So we're gonna talk about so tell us about the Appalachian School of Holistic Herbalism. You know, about just in general about the school and like what classes you offer. I think you're closed right now because of COVID, but anyway.
Yeah, so we are the oldest herbal studies school in the Southeast. I took it over. It was started in 1991, and I took it over in 2001 from my teacher when he moved to India to follow her spiritual path. She sold the herbs portion of the school to me, and I renamed it. And her husband did massage and energy healing, and he sold that to another person who kept the name. And yeah, at that point, we had the programs I bought from her were our fundamentals program, which is a 13-week course that meets one night a week. I believe you did that program.
I did. Full disclosure. So I went way back, gosh, or 2000. 7 maybe, I went and did that program, and you were my teacher, and yeah, I forgot what I was going to say right immediately after I started talking. Yeah, it was a great program. Oh yeah, it was my only my second experience with studying herbalism. I took a 1-day course at Red Moon Herbs on just medicine making and with Carino Wood, and you know, so I just knew the basics of medicine making, and then she did some plant identification, and then I was like, must do more school.
Yeah.
And, but yes, it was a really great class, and I remember we had a tea every class, a different tea, and I have my notebook, which I forgot to dig out, but anyway, I have my notebook with all of those teas.
Oh, sweet.
And yes, so
yeah, so that's a 13-week course that meets one night a week, and then every other Saturday we do field trips. So we go over herbs for each system of the body on weeknights, and aromatherapy, flower essences, first aid, herbs for men, women, and children, and pets. And then on the weekends we do medicine making, botany, plant identification, aromatherapy, fun stuff like that, fun hands-on, other side of the brain stuff. And yeah, one of the teachers, we also have a lot of teachers. That was one of my main goals when I started the school took it over, was to incorporate a number of teachers who are all like really good, like Frank Cook, you know, was talking about, really into that, their one thing.
Right, yeah.
To teach that class, rather than at the time, most of the herb schools had like one head teacher that teaches everything. So that was, you know, partially so the students could get a very wide perspective and really, you know, the best at each aspect of their field. And also different perspectives, so they could use some discernment and thinking, and, you know, well, this person told me that, and that person told me that, and where, you know, do the two meet, and what's the discrepancy. And I'm really into that, not just being sort of indoctrinated by one person's beliefs. And also, for me, it was also to just support the great local herbalists that we have in this region, by, you know, having them teach at the school as well. So we did that class, and then we have a 9-month, or I took over that class, and her 9-month traditional herbalism program that is more like, you know, the fundamentals is like, here's what plants can do, and here's how they work, and how you can use them. And then the 9-month class is really the art of being an herbalist, and we go into, you know, Eastern energetics, like Ayurveda and Chinese medicine, and how to look at the whole person and assess what's going on with them and match the energetics of the plant. And also just holistic lifestyle. We do beekeeping, organic gardening, permaculture, all these different career options in herbalism, seed starting, growing, flower farms, do a bunch of field trips to different people in the area who are making a living in different ways with herbalism. And really just a lot of heal thyself and introspection and working with yourself first before you work with other people, and doing things like cleanses and case studies. Those in martial arts. And, yeah. So,
I didn't know that was part of the class.
Yeah, we do Qigong.
That's great.
So those are the two main classes that I took over, and then we added workshops. You know, all those great teachers would teach short workshops, as well as other teachers on anything from alchemy, making spagyrics, to you know, making just simple teas, or organic gardening, or making Christmas gifts, or lip balms, or just any. We've also done, you know, really just workshops all over the spectrum, mushroom classes. And yeah, right now we're not doing classes at the school. And we are open. We're doing retail. So we have Custom Blending Apothecary. I think it's the only one in the region where you can go get an ounce with 4 different herbs of your choice in it.
Okay.
Rather than having to buy an ounce of each at another store and then blend them, you can blend your own tinctures. We blend it for you, so we don't have a bunch of people in there mixing stuff up. But we can blend whatever you want. Custom blends. We make all the tinctures ourselves for the most part, or buy a few here and there from close reputable herbalists that we know. All organically grown or sustainably wildcrafted. We also sell dried herbs that, again, less of the dried herbs are local than the extracts because we just don't have the drying capacity to do that ourselves. But we do have a lot of locally dried herbs as well that we grew. I grew myself or wildcrafted. And a lot of different products that are made by local herbalists. We like to highlight our graduates and sell their products out of our school, and kind of showcase what you can do with your herbal career and what people have gone on to do, as well as our teachers and just other local herbalists that we're into. And I am doing a sporadic sort of apprenticeship style days out at my Soulflower Botanical Sanctuary. So we're doing like Wednesdays and weeds, and a lot of Saturdays or Sundays we'll go out and people will essentially just help me in the garden or in the land, and in exchange for going home with plants for medicine making or to plant in their garden, as well as me teaching them all about the plants. So
wow, that's cool. So two things. So the chat wants. So can you? I put a link. The link to the school is in the description, and also you can find the store that Ceara is talking about. The custom herb blends, can they do that from online if they don't live in town?
Absolutely.
Okay, so cool. That's a
pickup. Yeah.
Awesome.
And our office is open Tuesday and Thursday, 11 to 6. So if you want to talk to somebody directly and go over that process of putting together a formula for you, Tuesday and Thursday would be the day to call. And Tuesday and Thursday is the day that we fill orders, and then you can pick them up any other day, or we ship them on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
That's awesome. Awesome. I did take a mead class.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And my husband's father is like, "Where's my mead?" Because I haven't, like, that first batch of mead I made like years and years ago was like such a hit, and then I haven't made any more. And I'm like, it's in the closet, getting ready, like, okay. I'm like, I guess I have to make some mead because I have issues with beer and yeast and anything like that. So I literally I couldn't taste it. I couldn't even try the mead I made, but I wanted to make it because I just love the idea of making this substance with honey and tea and I'm like, well, if we distill it, I can drink it, but like that's illegal. So
yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, I took that class and it was really great. So I had to make more mead, but that's fantastic that you're offering apprenticeships like that. And how would they just, if anyone's interested in coming out on those days, how would they just email the school or call the school? Or
the best way really is to follow our Facebook group.
Okay.
So we have a business page and a group, but if you join the group, I post on there when I'm bringing groups out. Or you can also follow me personally on Instagram. I'm just starting to do this, but before it was just a personal Instagram, but it's Witch Weed Witch.
What was it?
Witch Weed Witch.
Which weed with?
Yeah. So yeah, I'll post in the Facebook group or on my Instagram or bringing people out. And yeah, you can call the school too, and we'll put you on an interest list and let people know if you're not on social media. Leave us your number and we'll call you.
Awesome.
Or email info@herbsheal.com.
All right. Just put that in the chat. I want to say hello to Raven, who joined us. Hello, Raven Morning Glory. So this really like funnels right into the next question is, what do you feel is the best way for a person to learn about herbs?
Yeah, I definitely feel like 100% hands-on if you can. So I feel very strongly that you need to use all your senses to experience plants and learn about plants. So touch, taste, smell, intuition, all that good stuff. So if you can find an herbalist in your area, hit me up, come over and help in the garden. If you don't live near me, find a reputable traditional herbalist, in my opinion. It's good to find out where people's herbal influence came from, where they studied. There's a lot of people getting into herbalism right now. There's a lot of Instagram herbalists, I would say, at this point. And there's a lot of people that are, really making a lot of money off herbalism and are coming from sort of like a naturopathic or more conventional medicine practice or mindset or scope, and then translating that to herbs. And there's a lot really lost in translation. So if you can find a traditional herbalist that's studied with other traditional herbalists who have studied with other traditional herbalists, to me, that's really the best. And just, go ask if you could just help in their garden or their apothecary. And, oftentimes money doesn't even have to be a part of it. So it doesn't have to be exclusive to people that can sign up for an expensive course or anything.
Yeah. Yes. Brain, see? An hour and a half, but I have some ADD, so sometimes just like, but there's definitely some more chat that I'd like to have. So I'm gonna try to refocus. I definitely agree. I found that I learned best when I have it hands-on. It just, it's hard to really get a sense of the plant through a book. And I just, from my experience, I feel like, and once I've seen a plant, I'm like, okay, I know what that plant is. Like,
yeah.
But if I see a picture or something, it's just different. It's a whole different experience. And it's fantastic that you offer that. So that opportunity, and especially for just work exchange, because herb school can be expensive, and I think some of us struggle with that and see like how can we anyway. And I have struggled with it myself, definitely.
Sure. Yeah.
And so
and it's a valuable thing, getting a long course that's linear and
it is
without any gaps and has all these different teachers and so that's certainly I
don't want to discredit that also. Like
I don't either, herb schools, and I'm sure most herb schools try to really support their teachers and pay them well and all that stuff, and supplies and all that costs a lot. But I think also most herbalists are happy to have help, and are looking for that as well. Just a little hands-on help in the garden or the apothecary medicine making. And for me, like, I get so much more satisfaction watching someone take a plant home out of my garden that I might just compost because I have so much of it, or give to my chickens or whatever, and know that they're going to plant that. And then like 3 years later, they're like, I'm still making medicine with this plant, you know, just thought of you today. Like, that to me is everything, you know, just knowing that they have the plant, have the relationship with it, can find it again, you know, that's the stuff. So
yeah, definitely. And it's we have some fantastic herbal schools in the Asheville area, and very fortunate. And you know, but there's also it's good to have, everyone's also different learners, you know, some people do better in other ways. So it's really nice to have a whole variety of as our herbs are fitting to, as we fit the herbs to the people, we fit the learning to the people. So that
definitely. And we try to cater to all different learning styles in our school by having, you know, linear lecture type classes, as well as field trips and medicine making and hands-on projects and homework and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, I found it very, very balanced between the two. I do very, So yes, all of the info about the Appalachian School of Holistic Herbalism is in the description, and then Heather put up Instagram, and we have email. So all right, we're gonna get to the books. Well, okay, so did you ever think you would become a teacher? And what's your favorite thing about being a teacher? Before we get to
when I look back at my childhood and you're like, what do you want to be? Like, I think I wanted to be a teacher at some point. I think I wanted to be like a child psychologist at some point. I wanted to be a vet. So I think all of those things are like, you know, education and healing. So I don't think it's too far off. But like I said, I didn't know any language for there being herbalists in the world until I was in herb school. And even like before I was in herb school, I didn't really know that that's why I was going to herb school, to be an herbalist. You know, I still didn't know what an herbalist was until I was, I guess, coming out of herb school, really. So I didn't necessarily think that I'd be, a teacher. You asked about being a teacher.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, so I do think it's not far off, you know. I had thought about it here and there, some sort of teaching as a child and stuff, and healing work. And I think that education is healing for sure, healing work. And I remember I was teaching at AB Tech, I think, or for AB Tech in some other part of North Carolina, community college or something. And I was carrying all my stuff and, you know, supplies, hands-on stuff for the class, and like I do, and all of a sudden it hit me like, this isn't a thing that I do, it's a thing that I am. You know? And that was a really cool moment, memorable moment for me. And it just, so I feel like education is something that's a part of who I am, and not as much something that I do. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. that definitely makes sense. So Heather asks, what are some of your favorite plants to have growing in your garden? That might be a hard question.
Well, yeah, there's a little old cartoon version of Thumbelina, And it says, and then the witch went back to her garden of weeds. And I think about that pretty much every time I'm in my garden. So I grow a lot of weeds in my garden, and I'm very grateful to them. And it's, it's sort of a permaculture principle. They're perennials, and very, very valuable. Yarrow is definitely one of my favorite weeds that I could say I grow it, but I've never planted it. And I've never planted it. It's just, it grows there. It grows itself. And Rudolf Steiner, whom I love, I wish I need to memorize this quote, but he says something about how yarrow, like a good friend, just makes everything around it feel better. So it's a beneficial plant to the garden. It increases essential oil quantity and quality of other plants growing near it. So it increases the health of the other plants growing near it. It attracts beneficial insects. So yarrow, I leave it every year. I harvest it for medicine, but I save some. I mean, it will go to seed even if I don't. But yeah, I share it with people, but I always make sure I have plenty in the garden. It's one of my favorite herbs. As Frank Cook would say, it's in my inner garden. I adore it. And something that I actually actively grow and plant every year is turmeric and ginger. So that's something that, Frank would say is extra, right? It doesn't naturally grow here, but I love growing it. It's pretty easy to grow here as an annual. I try to overwinter it and keep it going, so I'm not buying the root every year to plant. But yeah, I like to grow it, and then I harvest my honey. Like last month, I harvested my late summer flow sourwood, and I will use the turmeric and ginger and make it into a honey extract.
Ginger honey is my favorite. We learned that at school.
Yeah.
And
sweet.
Yep. Yes, that's where I first learned to make honey, and it's just amazing. And then I have, I made some garlic honey.
Oh, great!
Yeah. Which is quite a punch, and during the COVID, we were having these garlic shortage. We were having these shortages, and I was like, well, if I make garlic honey, I'll always have the garlic. Mm-hmm. So that prompted the garlic honey, but also it's got quite a kick. So I've made jalapeno honey. But yeah, I love honey. So
me too. Yeah.
All right. So it's book time. Last but not least.
Okay.
So I had herbal books for beginners or herbal books for advanced learners, but I'm just gonna ask you in general, what books did you bring and what books would you like to show us? Because
so we have
but
we also have a free library at the herb school. It's their library, so you can go and nobody's really going in the school, but we can take a person at a time, and you can hang out. We have 700 books.
Oh wow!
Living. So yeah, but these are ones I happen to have in my house with me, and I was like, oh great, they're right here. So this is one that we recommend in our fundamentals class to follow along, sort of. So
it's opposite on StreamYard. Yeah, I know it's a little crazy. I'm gonna do this so I have a little more room. Yes, I have. Where is mine? Ta-da! Hello.
Oh yeah, twinning. All right, so this is nice. Like our class, it goes through each system, herbs for each system of the body, and the actions, herbal actions, and start to learn that way.
That's the new holistic herbal by David Hoffman.
Yeah.
Heather's got her pen ready. So
most of the books I recommend are sort of beginner, intermediate level, but David Hoffman, just to mention, I don't have it with me, also has a good advanced book called
this one, this crazy one.
Yeah.
This one is more advanced.
Yeah.
And it definitely is.
Yeah.
He goes into all kinds of. I took an herb class at the Botanologo school.
Oh yeah.
Natural. I want to say herbal medicine, but it's not true. It's Botanologos, but we didn't actually read this part where it goes into like there's like molecules on here.
Yeah.
So it's a hardcore book. But I need to dive into that one at some point more. But we use some, yeah. So that's more advanced. Oh.
So I also recommend you get a field guide, and this is a really good one. So you can start keying out your plants and knowing what plants you have. Although I am honestly like the worst botanist, and that's okay with me. Yeah. So I just have geeky botanist friends, just good geeks. Just kidding, all y'all botanists.
This is a who has the same book. Wait, I've got the other one too. Where is it? Oh yeah, I've got this one. I have this one.
Yeah.
I like this one too. Sorry, I'll stop.
No, don't stop.
Don't stop. I don't have that one.
It's perfect.
I don't have that one.
And so anything by Rosemary Gladstar. This is a really great one. Herbal recipes for kitchen witching, making a lot of good this way. Sorry. Making a lot of good
reverse
stuff at home. This is a little herbs for the home medicine chest. Okay. This is one if you want to get into more of energetic assessment, which I think is really cool. I had another teacher I didn't mention. We talked about mentors, but his name's Camilo Sanchez, and he is in Charlotte, North Carolina, and has a place called Tao Living Arts, and he is a doctor of Oriental medicine. Mostly now he does his own sort of medical qigong that he teaches people. But I learned from him. He did a class in Asheville. He used to live in Asheville, about energetic assessment, and we learned both sort of the basics of Ayurveda energetics and Chinese medicine Ayurvedic energetics at the same time. So just like looking at how the elements work in the body and in plants as well, and in everything. And man, I was really turned on by that. I was just like, this, it's like being an herbal detective, you know, and I realized like, this is what I do. And I think also like growing up with trauma, you know, you sort of become very aware of your surroundings, right? So it's sort of like in that way. So this is what I do. I key into everybody's energetics, right? And like what's going on. And so I was really turned on by that. So this is a good one. Planetary Herbology talks about the energetics of herbs. You know, there's some I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Some sort of subjectiveness in it, I think. You know, it's not completely hard and fast. This herb is this way, but it's a good starting place if you're interested in energetics of herbs.
Yes, that is. I took with so Patricia. Yes. Patricia Howell, who teaches the Botanologo School.
Yeah,
she also does. I took like a 2-day class on the 5-element Chinese theory, and I believe that also has to do with some energetics.
Oh, totally. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was fascinating. You know, that's one thing that I would love to know more about. Definitely. So, I remember. So I used to work in the wellness department of a large health food store, and you know, I always did feel like a little detective because, you know, when people would come and be like telling me about like what their experiencing is, and I was like asking them all these questions and everything, and it was very like, anyway. So
yeah,
I definitely can relate that. And then you're trying to like match up maybe the plant with what's going on, but in a kind of a much faster, smaller kind of
right.
way than if they came into an herbalist office. It was anyway, but yes,
Giving them as much as you can with this
yeah,
and little information that you have. Yeah, but
I love the systems because the traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic have been around for such a long time, and it's like I'm like, wait, they know all this stuff. Like they already know all this stuff. Like why don't I know all this stuff?
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. It's very fascinating.
Yeah, and they have a Chinese medicine, especially has a pretty unbroken lineage of recording all their knowledge and just adding to it and adding to it, whereas we have these sort of herbal traditions that were started and then we mass murdered all our herbalists, so that we lost a lot of knowledge there, so we have a lot to gain by looking at other systems of healing around the world, and especially Chinese medicine and Ayurveda are very, very profound in their healing arts. Yeah.
And I feel like what we've done since we've sort of, had that happen where we lost a lot of knowledge is we sort of brought in, that's my cat, you probably can hear.
She said, it's time, I'm hungry.
It's food time. One day I just sort of realized that, like, Western herbalism was sort of this thing where we brought in a lot of things from a lot of cultures and sort of made a little soup sort of to fill in some of the blanks and the connections. But I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh,
it's sort of what America is about, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
In the best sense of that, right. In that word. Yeah. Cool. Heather's like, is that all the books? No. I think that's all we have right now.
That's all the books that I have. I would also really recommend Susan Weed book, Herbal Healing Wise, for a beginner's book. It's the first herb book that I think I ever had, and I still have it, and it's like in 18 pieces. But I remember just being like, wow. And so she really goes into, she just chooses a few herbs that are common weedy herbs, and goes really in depth with them. Like mugwort might be in there, but I don't know. Yeah.
Mugwort is in there.
And she goes really in depth, and I believe it's better to know a few herbs really well than a bunch of herbs a tiny bit. Yay, you got it.
This is actually a new copy because my old copy is also in 100 pieces.
Yeah, I think it particularly wasn't bound well, but also people just adore it. So she's got recipes and goes for cooking with them wild foods. It goes really in depth with a few plants, which I think is great. That was like my prized possession for a long time, and then I started studying, getting into like the planetary herbology and the energetics, and I was like, oh, this is kind of baby stuff, And then like years later, I came back to that book, and I'm like, no, this book is really everything, so good. So yeah, I really recommend her books.
Yeah, and then her new book is also really awesome. This one, Abundantly Well.
Okay, I haven't read it.
And she's sort of she breaks the healing process into like Um, so there's these steps, and one is, so this is step 2, imagine health, mind medicine, and then it goes up to like step 6, which is like break and enter, which is about like surgery. And it's about what?
The steps of healing.
Right. It's about the choices that we have when we're faced with a health issue. What tools do we use?
Right.
We need to do like some yoga, or do we need to do some like, do we need to have surgery? And I think it's what we were talking about, that's very complex, the healing in the healthcare system. And this could really help you. Like you could read it and then be like, hey, I think I need to do this step and this step, but you can do it out of order. You can like, it's like a map. And she gives you websites and resources and explains some of these like natural therapies, as well as like she gives you like the drugs for if you have issues with gas, and then she gives you the herbal like the herbs for gas that you can take, so you have like, so you know all of your options. I really like it. She said that she was working on it for a really long time. It's got this very like, this one is written in a very like whimsical, poetic way, which is beautiful. This one is a little more like down, like I would like, you could recommend this to your person who maybe is not an herbalist,
right?
Not so into the plants and some of the more like esoteric theories, I guess, and ideas and stuff like that, but just goes straight into like, I really like it, and I'm supposed to be doing a book review, which I haven't done yet. But
we talk about her 7 steps of healing in our traditional program really early on.
Oh,
and yeah, it's a good sort of foundation, just sort of mindset to look at your choices. Really, it could be in anything that you do, and it also sort of relates to permaculture as well. But you know, the first step is do nothing, which is the same in permaculture. And you know, rather than make a wrong move by reacting, just don't react. You know, and then gather information, and then you know, use your senses to gather information, and you know, then engage the energy. So it's very cool. I'm really into her steps of healing. It's cool you brought that up.
So maybe she just put it in a book form, because I think that's what it. I believe the first one is pretty much like do nothing. Yeah. This is it. 7 medicines. It's right here. It's do nothing, collect information, engage the energy. So serenity medicine, story medicine, mind medicine, lifestyle medicine, alternative medicine, pharmaceutical medicine, and deep medicine, which is the surgery. So okay, she put it in book form. So it's
cool.
But we have on my YouTube channel, we have a herbal book club, and we did Healing Wise.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So if anyone's watching from the book club, we are all very, very familiar. And we sort of do a slow journey through the book. Like, it's not a book a month club. It's like, it took us like almost a year to get through it, because we just like come in and I read a section and we talk about it, and, you know, then we get off topic, and then like, you know, everything else. So it's really loosey-goosey. And, but anyway, and I think this was my first herb book. And when I think back, and I'm reminded of this when you were talking about how like the plants that you played with when you were young and you were told not to eat, that you could have actually eaten. Like, how did you know? But sometimes I think about my first herb books, and it's like, how did I know to pick out these herb books out of hundreds of herb books at the Barnes and Noble, like that I just grabbed her, did this one, and it was just like, and then found out that a lot of people also, you know, did the same thing. And so anyway, that's always fascinating to me. It's like, why did I decide to pick up this book? I didn't know anything. I didn't know who Susan Weed was.
Yeah.
All right. So everyone hopefully has a few more books to chew on. So how, I think, one last question, and then we're going to wrap it up. How do you see the role of herbalism in the future going forward?
Oh, gosh.
Or what would you like for to happen with this, like, this thing called herbalism? Where would you like it to be or do? Or
what I'd like, I like that question better than how do I see
Sorry.
it. I honestly am at a point, I think it's just a personal point that I'm at in my life, but also has a large part to do with it. But also, I'm sort of concerned about where herbalism is at and going. I'm concerned about like the digital age of herbalism. And sort of everyone is an herbalist and everyone's a wild forager, and it's very sexy, and they have like these, you know, sort of nice, like handmade clothes and, you know, leather clothes and good haircuts and are out there foraging. And I don't know. It concerns me. You know, everything good becomes trendy at some point. And in some ways that's great. And we need more herbalists. But, you know, weeds are an infinite resource, but some herbs are a finite resource for sure. And a lot of times those finite, more rare herbs are the ones that become trendier and more popular and more sought after. So I'm concerned about the conservation of certain herbs and wild foods. And yeah, so those are my concerns. Where would I like to see it go? I would love to see, you know, just with sort of all the breakdown that's going on in our government and our society, and the divisiveness that's happening, and the, you know, small businesses closing down and people losing their jobs and people losing their inability to connect with their peers and friends and family and their hobbies that keep them going and bring joy in their life. I would love to see us create new systems around nature, right? Because we are able to still go in nature and appreciate nature. And I think that brings just so much health and groundedness and relief to our nervous systems and strength to our immune systems. So I'd love to see us build systems around like community herbalism, community apothecaries, sharing food and medicine with each other, which are all things we could do safely and affordably and effectively. And we, you know, we protect the things that we know about and we love, right? So, you know, educating people about herbs and sustainable use of herbs rather than like these sort of trending big herbs from India or the Amazon or whatever. Just connecting people with these, you know, goldenrod is freaking everywhere right now.
Everywhere.
Perfect herb to take right now for pretty much everyone. You know, so connecting people with that awareness of the abundance that's all around them. I'd love to just see that happen more throughout communities on a small sort of intimate scale, but abundantly, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Intimate but big.
Yeah,
Big-ish.
it's happening everywhere, but
Yeah.
small groups of people coming together and supporting their communities with herbs and plant walks and shared apothecaries and shared book clubs and food pantries.
Yes, because we have the ability to have enough food and enough housing and enough support for everybody. I think really we do.
There's so much, I mean, especially where we live, we're super lucky, but we have, abundant good water, right? And we have an abundance of wild plants, more species of plants than anywhere in North America here. So, and so many herbalists and so many knowledgeable people, craft people and skills, people with all sorts of earth skills. And so if we could just figure out, hubs to come together and share all of that, if somebody has an abundance of squash, somebody has an abundance of goldenrod, somebody has an abundance of, beans or whatever it is, and knowledge and sharing, skill sharing, I think is sort of could be the wave of the future. I would love to see more of that.
That sounds like amazing, and I would 100% want all of that to happen. And I would love to be a part of all of that. That makes me happy thinking about those ideas and come together as their fellow humans and work with the plants and share what we have. That sounds great. So all right. I'd like to say thank you to Ceara for joining us and having an amazing chat for almost 2 hours.
Thanks.
We probably could have gone on, but it's a good time to stop. Thank you for everyone in the chat who's joined us today. Thank you for everyone who will join us in the future. This will be immediately on Facebook, but it takes about 24 hours to pop up on YouTube. And let's see, so I have notes here. Our next interview is the 20th of October at 12 p.m. Eastern. We had to change a little things around, so but that's the next one. There's going to be a tiny gap where life happens. So we have if anyone's interested in stories from the earth, we have a Facebook group, which is listed in the description. Feel free to join if you want to come on and get interviewed. You don't have to be you don't have to be an herbalist per se. You can just be like a plant enthusiast. You can be a student. You can tell your experience about herbs and we can talk plants. Or if you're an herbalist or teacher, come on. So I hope everyone has a lovely day, and try to go outside and play with some plants today, and I'll see everyone on the 20th. So bye.